The lights in the studio looked the same, the music sounded the same, and the audience clapped on cue. Yet something was off. From the moment Meghan Markle walked onto Jennifer Hudson's stage, the air was different. The applause wasn't warm, it was polite, almost strained. Jennifer, usually the queen of calm and comfort, leaned forward in her emerald dress with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Meghan sat tall, chin high, blazer sharp, but her expression carried an edge. It wasn't the glossy Netflix version of Meghan. This was Meghan on defense. At first, it felt like any other celebrity sit-down. Small talk, family questions, career highlights. But then came a remark that cut just a little too close, a shift in tone too sharp to ignore. Meghan's smile faltered. Jennifer's eyes narrowed. The audience laughed nervously, not sure if they'd just witnessed a joke gone wrong, or the beginning of something far more explosive. The tension built quickly, like watching a glass tremble on the edge of a table. Words sharpened, answers clipped, and by the third question it was no longer an interview. It was a standoff. A daytime queen versus a duchess determined not to bend. And when the clash finally came, it wasn't subtle. It was raw, public, and unforgettable. The cameras caught everything. Daytime television has always thrived on two things: warmth and spectacle. Audiences tune in for comfort, for the glow of a celebrity guest, for the feeling that they're in the room with people they admire. That's what made the Jennifer Hudson Show such a hit. Jennifer wasn't just a host, she was a presence. She brought the same commanding voice that won her an Oscar and Grammy, but paired it with a down-to-earth honesty that made viewers feel safe. People didn't just watch her, they trusted her. So when the network announced that Meghan Markle would be appearing on Jennifer's stage, expectations shot through the roof. Meghan wasn't just another guest. She was global royalty, Hollywood starlet, philanthropist, headline magnet, all wrapped into one carefully curated package. Her interviews always promised something: a revelation, a rebuttal, or at the very least a moment the internet could chew on. For Jennifer, booking Meghan meant ratings gold. For Meghan, sitting across from Jennifer meant another chance to shape her narrative. But history already weighed heavily on Meghan. Ever since stepping into the royal spotlight, she'd been shadowed by controversy. From the glittering wedding that enchanted millions to the Oprah interview that split audiences down the middle, Meghan had become less of a person and more of a symbol. To some, she was the underdog who took on an ancient institution. To others, she was a master manipulator, endlessly rewriting her story. By the time she walked onto Jennifer's stage, that split had only grown wider. Behind the scenes, producers whispered about how delicate this interview could be. Jennifer's team prided themselves on asking honest questions without crossing into cruelty. But Meghan was known for bristling when topics strayed outside her comfort zone. The wrong word, the wrong tone, and what should have been a celebratory conversation could turn into an international headline. Still, the booking was too big to pass up. The audience wanted answers. The tabloids would be watching. And Jennifer, seasoned but fearless, wasn't about to let the moment slip through her fingers. In the days leading up to the taping, fan speculation ran wild online. Would Meghan address the Netflix backlash? Would she clear the air about her rumored Hollywood cold shoulder? Was Harry going to be mentioned? Or had he already been written out of her solo brand strategy? Threads on Twitter and Reddit dissected every possibility. Even before Meghan opened her mouth, the interview was already viral. Jennifer herself had stayed quiet. Unlike other hosts who tease big reveals, she let anticipation simmer. It was her style, low-key, confident, almost daring the audience to underestimate her. What no one knew was that Jennifer had been preparing carefully. She had read Meghan's past interviews, combed through Tom Bower's critiques, and listened to the whispers from Hollywood circles. She wasn't going in blind. She was ready. The studio that morning was electric. Audience members lined up early, buzzing about the guest list. Some clutched handmade signs. "We love you, Meghan," while others admitted privately they were there just to see if sparks would fly. The staff backstage felt it too. Normally, the vibe was lighthearted, filled with laughter and chatter. But today, it was quieter, heavier. Everyone knew this wasn't going to be just another Tuesday taping. Meghan arrived with a small entourage, perfectly styled, every hair in place. She exuded control, but insiders noticed the subtle tension in her jaw, the quick glances at her publicist. She wasn't here to play small. Jennifer entered minutes later, radiating calm confidence. Her laugh echoed down the hallway, her steps unhurried. Two women, two worlds, about to collide under the hottest lights in daytime TV. On paper, it was supposed to be a win-win. Jennifer got her ratings, Meghan got her platform, but what nobody could predict was how quickly the conversation would crack open, how fast smiles would turn sharp, and how a simple interview would spiral into one of the most talked-about clashes of the year. This wasn't just a guest appearance. It was the collision of authenticity and performance, of a woman loved for her transparency and another criticized for her calculated image. A collision the audience didn't just watch, they felt. And the moment Meghan sat down across from Jennifer, the countdown to disaster began. The studio audience was ready for an easy afternoon. They had clapped on cue, cheered as Jennifer Hudson stepped out in her glittering emerald dress, and leaned forward when Meghan Markle took her seat. At first, nothing seemed unusual. Jennifer delivered her signature welcome, warm, soulful, her voice booming with that effortless confidence. Meghan smiled, thanked her, and crossed one leg neatly over the other. For a fleeting moment, it looked like the kind of segment daytime television thrives on: polite, polished, and perfectly forgettable. But then, the rhythm shifted. The first question landed gently enough. Jennifer, leaning slightly forward, asked, "How has life been now that you're back in California? Adjusting from London to here must feel like a change." A harmless question, or at least that's how it was meant. But Meghan's smile froze. She tilted her head, blinked once, and let out a laugh that didn't quite sound like amusement. "Is that your way of suggesting I wasn't welcome there?" she asked, her tone sharp but wrapped in the thin gauze of humor. The audience chuckled uneasily, unsure if they'd witnessed a joke or a jab. Jennifer's eyes flickered, her smile steady but a shade tighter than before. "No, not at all," she replied, her voice calm. "I just meant, it must be a big cultural shift. A lot of people wonder about that contrast." It was a quick recovery, smooth enough for casual viewers. But in the room, the energy had already changed. Backstage producers exchanged looks. They had warned Jennifer about this. Meghan didn't handle ambiguity well. Questions that sounded innocent to others often felt like slights to her, and once her guard was up, it was nearly impossible to bring it down. Still, Jennifer pressed on. Her second question was one that audiences everywhere loved. "How are things with Harry? How do you balance the spotlight with raising your children?" This time, Meghan's laugh carried no disguise. It was cold, clipped, a sound that made even the front row shift in their seats. "Honestly, Jennifer, I find it fascinating that people cling to rumors and whispers about my marriage. Harry and I don't live our lives for tabloids. I would have expected you, of all people, not to pander to that." The air tightened. Jennifer's smile faltered, then recovered in an instant. She let out a soft chuckle, not to dismiss Meghan, but to keep the moment afloat. "I wasn't asking about gossip," she said firmly. "I was asking about family life. That's something only you can share." The audience clapped politely, but the tension was obvious. A few whispered among themselves. One woman in the second row leaned over to her friend. "She's so defensive. It was just a question." Meghan's expression never softened. She leaned back, arms folding loosely across her lap, as if she were suddenly a judge rather than a guest. Behind the cameras, Jennifer's team scrambled silently. Their host was famous for her warmth. Rarely did she need to switch gears in such a visible way. But Meghan was pushing back harder than anyone had expected. The third question, meant to steer the conversation toward lighter territory, only made things worse. Jennifer asked, "Looking back on your acting career, do you ever miss those days on set?" For the first time, Meghan's lips curled into something resembling a smile, but it was sharp, almost mocking. Miss it? No. Acting was just a stepping stone. People love to remind me of that time, but honestly, it was before my life truly mattered. What I do now has far greater impact. The audience gasped softly. The bluntness of her words clashed with the usual careful tone of celebrity interviews. One man in the back row muttered, "Wow." Jennifer blinked, caught off guard but not defeated. She let out a gentle laugh. "I didn't mean to minimize what you're doing now. Fans just loved your work, that's all." "Fans love a lot of things," Meghan cut in, her tone icy. "That doesn't mean I need to relive the past." The silence that followed was louder than applause. Jennifer nodded, her patience visible, but fraying at the edges. "Fair enough," she said softly. "Let's talk about your foundation then. What legacy are you hoping to build?" That word, legacy, triggered something. Meghan's eyes brightened, but not with joy. Her voice rose, deliberate and lofty. Legacy isn't about smiling for cameras or doing ribbon cuttings. It's about challenging outdated systems and redefining what matters. People are uncomfortable with me because I don't play by their rules, but that's their problem, not mine. Her words hung heavy in the air. The audience shifted uncomfortably. Some nodded, others whispered to each other. Jennifer smiled again, but it was different now. Her warmth remained, but underneath, a new steel was showing. She leaned back, crossed one leg, and let her gaze rest firmly on Meghan. "You certainly don't hold back," she said, her voice calm but edged. "Why should I?" Meghan shot back, tilting her chin high. The tension snapped like a wire. The audience went dead silent, every eye fixed on the two women. Somewhere, in the control room, a producer mouthed to another, "This is about to get messy." From that point on, every exchange felt sharper, every answer loaded with unspoken challenge. Jennifer would ask, carefully but firmly, and Meghan would twist the question into something darker, heavier, more combative. Backstage whispers grew louder. A production assistant muttered, "She's going to walk off if this keeps up." Another shook their head. "No, Jennifer won't let her. She'll hold her ground." The audience, meanwhile, felt torn. Some sided with Meghan, applauding her for refusing to sugarcoat her answers. Others cringed, sensing arrogance in every clipped response. Social media, of course, was already buzzing. Phones lit up under the seats. Tweets were being typed mid-show. Is Meghan seriously snapping at Jennifer Hudson right now? The whispers reached beyond the studio. In fan forums, speculation exploded. Was Meghan unraveling under pressure? Was Jennifer baiting her? Or was this simply the clash of two powerful women, neither willing to yield an inch? What made the moment even more gripping was how visibly different the two women's styles were. Jennifer radiated patience, her voice calm, her smile steady, even when her eyes flashed steel. Meghan radiated control, her answers polished, her tone defensive, her body language sharp. They were mirrors of each other, one grounded, the other guarded, and the contrast was electric. By the end of the first half of the interview, the atmosphere was unrecognizable from where it began. The easy warmth of a talk show conversation had vanished, replaced by the crackle of confrontation. Even applause felt forced, as if the audience was clapping not out of joy, but out of disbelief. And then came the moment that pushed everything, past the point of no return. Jennifer leaned forward, cards in hand, and asked about Meghan's projects with Netflix, reports of negotiations, whispers of higher pay demands. She offered Meghan the chance to clarify, to set the record straight. But Meghan's response was fire. She snapped her head toward Jennifer, her voice slicing through the studio. "Do you really think I sit around negotiating gossip? Netflix recognizes my value. If people want to frame ambition as greed, that's their problem, not mine. Frankly, Jennifer, I'd expect better from you than repeating baseless rumors." The words echoed. The audience gasped. Jennifer inhaled sharply, her smile still present, but her eyes narrowing. The clash was no longer subtle. It was visible, undeniable, and raw. And though neither woman backed down, the audience sensed it. The interview had crossed into uncharted territory. What started as a conversation was now a battle, and the most explosive moments were still to come. The question still hung in the air like smoke after an explosion. Meghan's words, sharp, clipped, and cutting, echoed in the silence that followed. "Frankly, Jennifer, I'd expect better from you than repeating baseless rumors." Jennifer Hudson sat perfectly still, her emerald dress shimmering under the lights, her smile frozen. For a woman known for her unshakable warmth, this was the rare moment where her expression betrayed a flicker of disbelief. The studio audience gasped, then hushed, caught between the instinct to applaud and the tension of not knowing what might happen next. Jennifer finally exhaled slowly, leaning forward in her chair. Her voice, when it came, was calm, but edged with steel. "I wasn't quoting tabloids, Meghan. I was giving you the opportunity to set the record straight. That's what this stage is for." The audience clapped, a ripple of support moving through the room. Meghan's jaw tightened. She crossed her arms, a gesture as much defensive as it was defiant. "The record doesn't need setting straight," she replied coldly. "What I do, what I negotiate, what value I bring, none of that is for public consumption. Least of all for people who want to twist ambition into arrogance." Her words were aimed like daggers, and though she hadn't raised her voice, the weight of her tone was undeniable. Jennifer's patience was slipping. She sat up straighter, her hands folding neatly in her lap. Her smile dimmed. "With all due respect," she said evenly, "this isn't twisting ambition. This is asking a question, the same as I'd ask any guest. If you can't handle that without turning it into an attack, maybe this isn't the platform for you." Gasps shot through the audience. One man muttered loudly enough for cameras to catch. "Oh, she went there." Meghan's composure cracked. Her eyes widened, and for the first time, her voice rose above the polished calm she carried like armor. "So that's it? You want to frame me as difficult, ungrateful, arrogant? I came here to speak the truth, not to be ambushed by someone who pretends to care but really just wants ratings." The studio atmosphere imploded. Audience members shifted uncomfortably, some shaking their heads, others leaning forward with gleeful anticipation. Phones lit up. Clips were already being recorded, hashtags forming before the show had even wrapped. Jennifer leaned forward now, abandoning the practiced host smile altogether. Her voice dropped low, firm, and unyielding. "Let's be clear, Meghan. I don't need ratings badly enough to sit here and let someone throw shade at me on my own stage. This show is about honesty, about connection. But every question I've asked today, you've twisted into an attack. That's not honesty. That's hostility." The crowd erupted in applause. The tension had shifted. For the first time, Meghan looked cornered. She sat rigid, her hand gripping the armrest of her chair, her knuckles pale. Her response came fast, shaky at the edges. "Hostility? No, Jennifer. Hostility is what I've lived with since marrying into a family that weaponized the press against me. Hostility is strangers dissecting my every move, inventing stories, demanding explanations for choices that are mine alone. Don't sit there and accuse me of being hostile just because I refuse to play nice for daytime TV. Jennifer's eyes narrowed. Her voice cut through Meghan's words like glass. You talk about refusing to play nice. Let me tell you something. You're not being asked to play nice. You're being asked to be accountable. You want sympathy. You want trust. But the moment someone asks for clarity, you push them away. That's not strength. That's arrogance. The audience gasped again, then roared with applause. This wasn't an interview anymore. It was a courtroom, and Jennifer Hudson had just dropped her verdict. Meghan's composure shattered. Her eyes glistened with tears she tried to blink away, her voice trembling with fury. "How dare you?" she whispered, almost to herself, then louder. "How dare you sit there and reduce me to arrogance? You don't know me. You don't know the sacrifices I've made, the battles I've fought." Jennifer cut in, her tone calm but merciless. "You're right. I don't know every detail of your life, but I know patterns. And right now, what I see is someone desperate to be adored, furious that the world won't bend to her narrative. That's not sacrifice. That's ego." The studio went silent. For a moment, no one breathed. Meghan stared at Jennifer, her lips trembling, her hand lifting to her face as if to shield herself from the weight of the words. And then, the crack became a break. Meghan unclipped her microphone with trembling hands. The small pop of the mic disconnecting echoed through the sound system. The audience gasped. Jennifer sat back, watching quietly, her expression unreadable. "This was a mistake," Meghan muttered, her voice shaky but audible through the still hot mic. "I don't need to sit here and be insulted." The cameras followed as she stood abruptly, clutching her purse, her tears visible under the harsh studio lights. The audience, caught between sympathy and disbelief, erupted into murmurs. Some applauded her exit. Others shook their heads. Jennifer remained seated, her back straight, her eyes steady on the woman walking off her stage. She didn't rise. She didn't call her back. She didn't soften her words. Instead, she let the silence stretch, the tension linger, the spectacle burn itself into history. Meghan stormed toward the side of the stage, her heels clicking against the polished floor. A stagehand reached out to guide her, but she brushed past him, head high, tears streaking down her face. The cameras caught every second. Phones lit up like fireworks. The internet had its moment, and it wasn't going to let go. Jennifer finally turned to the audience, her emerald dress catching the light, her voice calm but firm. "Ladies and gentlemen, I want to apologize. You came here for an honest conversation, and instead you watched someone walk away the moment accountability entered the room. But that's not what this show is about. This show is about truth, about connection, about facing the hard questions, even when it's uncomfortable." The audience thundered with applause, some even rising to their feet. The clash was over, but the fallout had just begun. Because once a breakdown happens on live TV, it doesn't stay in the studio. It spreads, fast, wide, and merciless. And as Meghan walked off Jennifer Hudson's stage, the world outside was already waiting to devour every second of what had just unfolded. The second Meghan Markle disappeared behind the velvet curtains, the studio dissolved into chaos. Producers bolted from their control booths, headsets buzzing, voices sharp with panic. "Cut to commercial! Cut to commercial now!" one shouted, waving frantically at the cameramen. The live audience, stunned into silence, sat frozen for several long seconds before erupting into whispers, gasps, and the glow of dozens of cell phones. Jennifer Hudson stayed seated, her back straight, her face calm, almost too calm. She had seen storms before. She had survived the highs and lows of Hollywood, industry politics, and cutthroat competition. But never before had a guest walked off her stage mid-interview. The moment was historic, and Jennifer knew it. Backstage, Meghan was pacing furiously, her publicist at her side, hissing into her ear. "We need to get you out of here. Car's already waiting. No statements. Not a word." Meghan's cheeks were still streaked with tears, her jaw locked tight. "She humiliated me," she muttered, her voice shaking. "She planned that. She wanted a moment, and she used me for it." Meanwhile, in the control room, the network executives were already split. Some were horrified. An A-list guest storming off meant angry agents, potential lawsuits, and bad press. Others were buzzing with adrenaline. "Do you realize what we just got? This is ratings gold. Clips are going to explode online. We couldn't have scripted this better." And they were right. Even before the broadcast cut to commercial, clips of the exchange were flooding Twitter and TikTok. Fans who had been in the studio uploaded shaky, grainy videos of Meghan's sharp words, Jennifer's calm rebuttals, and the moment Meghan ripped off her microphone. The captions were ruthless. "Jennifer Hudson just ended Meghan Markle live on air." "Jennifer vs. Meghan. When you bring royal drama to daytime TV and lose?" She thought she could control the narrative. Jennifer had other plans. Within minutes, the hashtag #OurHudsonVsMarkle was trending worldwide. The reactions were immediate and polarized. Meghan loyalists rushed to defend her. Jennifer blindsided her with loaded questions. "This was a setup," wrote one supporter. Others accused Jennifer of exploiting Meghan's vulnerability for entertainment. "Jennifer crossed a line. That wasn't journalism. That was ambush TV." But the louder voices belonged to Jennifer's defenders. Clips of her measured tone, her refusal to be rattled, her calm dismantling of Meghan's defensiveness spread like wildfire. Commentators praised her for standing her ground. Jennifer Hudson didn't attack Meghan. She just refused to let her dodge accountability. That's what a real interviewer looks like. By evening, talk shows and news outlets were already running segments dissecting the clash. Legal analysts debated whether Meghan's team could demand the footage be pulled. PR experts weighed in on the damage control strategies each side might deploy, and royal commentators gleefully framed it as another sign that Meghan's Hollywood experiment was unraveling. Behind closed doors, Jennifer's producers were giddy. The show's social media accounts saw a surge in followers. Teaser clips posted to Instagram hit millions of views within hours. Network insiders whispered that Jennifer's ratings were about to hit a career high. For her, what started as a tense, unscripted exchange had become the defining moment of her talk show. Meghan's camp, however, was spiraling. Her publicist fielded calls from news outlets, refusing interviews but drafting carefully worded statements. The debate inside her team was vicious. Should Meghan issue a calm response painting herself as the victim? Or should she go on the offensive, accusing Jennifer of exploitation? The longer they debated, the more the narrative slipped from their hands. Harry's name started trending too. Fans and critics alike wondered how he would respond. Would he stand by Meghan publicly, as he had during past controversies? Or would he remain silent this time? The silence stretched. His absence from the conversation only fueled speculation. Some tabloids ran mocking headlines. "Harry silent as Meghan storms off. Where's the prince when the drama hits?" Industry insiders were even harsher. Anonymous producers whispered to entertainment blogs that Meghan had just torpedoed her reputation in Hollywood. Storming off a live interview? That's career suicide. People already found her difficult. Now she looks unstable. Jennifer, on the other hand, basked in praise. Fellow talk show hosts commended her poise. One late-night comedian joked, "Forget the royal family. Meghan just picked the wrong queen to mess with, Queen Jennifer." The studio audience members who had witnessed the showdown firsthand told reporters they had never seen anything like it. One described it as watching a courtroom trial and a soap opera collide in real life. Even Oprah's name got pulled into the conversation. People began comparing Jennifer's handling of Meghan to Oprah's infamous sit-down interview years before. While Oprah had been sympathetic, giving Meghan the space to tell her story, Jennifer had been firm. challenging her inconsistencies instead of indulging them. The contrast was brutal. Many viewers now argued that Meghan crumbled when she couldn't control the narrative. Meanwhile, memes exploded. Meghan's face, caught mid-glare, was pasted into endless edits, some showing her storming out of movie sets, others inserting Jennifer calmly sipping tea as captions read, "When you thought you could control the interview, but Jennifer Hudson is built different." The fallout was no longer just about Meghan or Jennifer. It became a cultural moment. Social media framed it as a battle between authenticity and performance. Jennifer represented honesty, grace under pressure. Meghan represented defensiveness, image control, and fragility. Whether fair or not, the narrative solidified fast. By the next morning, headlines were merciless. Jennifer Hudson schools Meghan Markle in live TV clash. Duchess defeated, Meghan storms off talk show stage. Daytime drama, Hudson versus Markle sparks media frenzy, and the ripple effects spread further than anyone expected. Sponsors began quietly calling Meghan's team, asking if her upcoming appearances were still scheduled. Netflix, still bruised from low ratings on her projects, reportedly held an emergency meeting to discuss how this moment might affect their partnership. Spotify's failed deal resurfaced in conversations, reinforcing a pattern. Every platform that touched Meghan seemed to come away burned. For Jennifer, the clash became a badge of honor. Producers rebranded the upcoming week's promotion around the interview everyone is talking about. Clips played on repeat in previews. Daytime rivals envied her, what they wouldn't give for a viral moment that turned their show into the center of global conversation. But under the applause, there were whispers. Some wondered if Jennifer had been too sharp, too relentless. Others argued Meghan had been set up from the start. The truth was more complicated. Neither woman had walked in expecting this outcome, but once the spark was lit, neither was willing to back down. And while Jennifer's career soared in the aftermath, Meghan's image entered another crisis cycle. She had left the stage in tears, but what lingered wasn't sympathy. It was doubt. Doubt about her composure, doubt about her authenticity, doubt about whether her carefully managed brand could survive another public fracture. Because in the end, a storm out doesn't just fade, it becomes replayed, dissected, and immortalized. And Meghan's exit from Jennifer Hudson's stage was no longer just a moment. It was a turning point, one that neither side could undo. The morning after the meltdown, the world wasn't calmer, it was louder. What had started as a single interview spiraled into a storm stretching from Hollywood boardrooms to royal family drawing rooms. And just when it seemed like the dust might settle, new twists began to surface. First came the whispers from Hollywood. According to entertainment insiders, Meghan's storm out sent a shiver through talk show producers and event organizers. No one wanted to take the risk of booking a guest who might walk out mid-segment. One anonymous executive put it bluntly, "We live in a ratings economy, but there's a line between buzz and disaster." Meghan crossed it. Almost immediately, rumors of quiet blacklisting spread. Invitations to film festivals, charity galas, and panels, events Meghan once attended regularly, reportedly began to dry up. A producer told a trade magazine, "It's not personal, it's business. Sponsors don't want drama overshadowing their events." Then came the royal angle. British tabloids pounced on the clash, calling it the Duchess downfall on American soil. Palace insiders, usually tight-lipped, allegedly remarked that Meghan's behavior only confirmed why the family kept their distance. Headlines screamed that even across the Atlantic, Meghan couldn't escape controversy. For her critics, it was vindication. For her supporters, it was proof of an establishment eager to tear her down. But the twists didn't stop there. By midweek, entertainment blogs claimed Meghan's team was exploring legal options. Could they demand the footage be pulled from reruns? Could they argue defamation? Lawyers weighed in quickly. Unlikely. The cameras captured everything fairly. Meghan hadn't been tricked. She had simply lost her cool. If anything, legal threats only risked amplifying the story further. Meanwhile, Jennifer Hudson's camp faced its own questions. Was she too harsh? Did she deliberately press Meghan into a corner? Fans debated endlessly online. Clips of Jennifer's firm but calm delivery went viral, but so did arguments that she'd broken daytime TV's unspoken rule of warmth.